Welcome back, everybody, to Packs and Picks, and welcome to our first sealed pool for Murders at Karlov Manor. This is an extra exciting one because for the first time in a long time, Wizards has changed up the contents of boosters in the form of the play booster. If you're not aware, there's one less card in draft boosters or play boosters now, and there's a higher chance of rares and uncommons, so this is definitely going to mix up draft and, in our case, sealed pool play a lot more. So that's an exciting thing to do with this first sealed pool for the new format. So first off, let's get into what our rares were in the pool. So we did have 8 rares this time around, so we do have a few more rares as we can kind of expect from the play boosters. First one here, Niv Mizzet, Guild Pact, 5 colors. Like a lot of 5-color rares in most limited formats, if the mana fixing isn't there, you're probably not going to be able to reliably cast this, and I believe that's true in this case for Niv Mizzet. You might be able to do it in a draft. You pick up a lot of the dual lands that are floating around, but not for our sealed pool this time around. Another one of our rares, No Witness. So this is your 4-mana Wrath. This one, I'm not quite sure how I feel about this because it says each player who controls the most creatures investigates, then destroy all creatures. So typically, when you use a Wrath, or when I've used a Wrath, you want to try to get like a 3-for-1 out of the deal where your opponent's kind of overextending on the board and you can Wrath it all away and then follow up with creatures of your own. But because this card gives them an investigate action, it gives them a clue, you're kind of giving them one of their own cards back. I feel like it's going to be hard to generate the advantage that you typically see with a Wrath from something like No Witnesses. So this one's going to stay in my sideboard for this sealed pool at least. Another one of our rares, Archdruid's Charm, 3 green. A lot of text on this card. It's basically 3 cards stapled together. So you got a search effect for a creature or land. You've got a bite effect and the second bullet point there, and then exile target artifact or enchantment. So interesting card if you're going to be a heavy green. Otherwise, though, it's kind of interesting that there's several green cards in this set that do each one of these bullet points that I think you would end up putting in your deck anyway. So that makes Archdruid's Charm something that if you're in green, you'd probably go for. Another rare we had was Cryptex. 2 mana, tap, collect evidence 3, add a mana of any color. And then if you get 5 unlock counters on the Cryptex, you get to surveil and draw some cards. I really don't think this is a great card for limited. It just takes way too much effort to get working. You got to collect evidence basically 15, collect evidence 15 over 5 different turns of the game just to get some cards back. And really it's not going to generate you the mana early on that you would hope from a 2-mana mana rock. So Cryptex I think is pretty bad. It's going to stay in the sideboard. And then other than that, we did get some good other rares in the form of Sharp-Eyed Rookie, 2/2 Vigilance that can get bigger. Case of the Stash Skeleton. I love the flavor on this one. So basically it's a 2-mana 2/1 skeleton with Suspect, so menace and can't block. And then if your skeleton dies, then you can, or if your skeleton is no longer suspected, then you can search up a card from your library. Wojek Investigator. This is a card I've had a chance to play with. Really good card, 3-mana 2/4 Flying Vigilance. Occasionally will get you a couple investigates over the course of the game. Really good card. And Officious Interrogation, white-blue, where if your opponent's got a bunch of creatures, you're going to get a lot of investigation happening. So those were our rares in the pool. What I ended up going with was a white-black deck, so I'll go ahead and set that up right now. And we did find a home for both the Wojek Investigator and the Stash Skeleton in the deck. It kind of started off, I thought I was going to end up with a detective-based deck, but as I started laying it all out, I don't have a ton of detectives, but I do have some of the synergies with creatures with power 2 or less, which turns out detectives are, and also disguised creatures have power 2 or less. I can put that up here. All right, here we go. So this is the gist of the deck here. So like I said, we've got some synergies with 2 power creatures. We have Market Watch Phantom here. So whenever another creature with power 2 or less enters the battlefield under your control, it gains flying. We've got 2 of those in the deck. And we have the Neighborhood Guardian here. So another creature with power 2 or less enters the battlefield, you're going to pump up another one of your creatures. So also caring about small creatures. And then up in the top end of the curve, we've got Wisp Drinker Vampire. So 4 mana, 2/4. Whenever a creature with power 2 or less enters the battlefield, we're going to drain our opponents for 1 life. And then we have that larger activated ability to give our small creatures Death Touch and Lifelink for a turn. So that's kind of our strategy right now, is with the small power creatures. Get in there. We do have a lot of interaction, which I like, and one of the reasons why I stayed with the white-black color pair. So we've got things like Murder, Makeshift Binding, Slice from the Shadows, and cards like Push and Pull. So Push can destroy target tap creature, Pull can get things back from the graveyard. So really for me, in this deck, I don't have any red, so Pull is basically 4 black, and if we draw this late in the game, I could see Pull being one of our win conditions. We could pull either 2 of our own creatures back, or we could get one of the better creatures from our opponent back for a turn and maybe smash in for the last little bit of damage. Another card that's kind of sneaking around in the deck is Granite Witness. So I don't have any blue mana natively, but the disguise of 2 hybrid white-blue mana basically means that I can flip this up for 2 white mana, and this card will most likely always be played as a disguised creature first, and then I'll flip it up for white. So it's kind of like a mono white card in this deck. And one of the things that I do like about some of the hybrid mana stuff that we see in this set, like with the Granite Witness and with things like Push Pull, where we could just put Push Pull in a mono black deck because we have access with that hybrid mana. So one of the things I like to keep an eye out for with hybrid mana in this set. All right, so what was the biggest contender for me for other colors was blue, because blue did have a lot of detectives. So we had things like Surveillance Monitor, we had 2 Cold Case Crackers, Crime Stopper Sprite, Projector Inspector, Missway Spy, and then some other good interaction cards here, other good cards in blue. But one of the things that I didn't like when I laid out the white-blue deck, while it had a lot of synergies with detectives and 2/2 creatures, just did not have the interaction that was available in black. So a lot more removal out of black, as you'd come to expect, and that's why I ended up going with white-black instead of white-blue. One fun thing, though, is that in our pool we did get Agency Outfitter, and we did get both the Thinking Cap and the Magnifying Glass. So we could do that little mini combo if we were in blue this time around, but not this time around. So blue was my other big contender. Let me know down in the comments if you think we could have gone white-blue in this deck instead. And then as far as the sideboard goes, we do have a copy of Cease and Desist. So once again, leveraging that hybrid mana. We don't have green mana, but we could play Cease or Desist because we're in black and white in this case. And then we also have a couple cards, Extract a Confession. So this has Collect Evidence 6, and as well as It Doesn't Add Up. So these are 2 cards that are going to be interacting with our graveyard and bringing stuff out of our graveyard. And we have a little bit of synergies in the pool with creatures and things leaving our graveyard with stuff like Leering Onlooker. We can exile from our graveyard to make a couple bat tokens. And then also we've got Soul Innervation here. Whenever one or more creature cards leave our graveyard, we drain our opponent. So I could see, depending on how this first iteration of the deck plays, we might be able to make some changes and bring in some of these cards that care more about removing stuff from the graveyard to get a little bit more value out of our deck. And that's it. That is the deck. Thank you so much for watching. Once again, let me know if you would go blue-white. You see something else in the pool that catches your eye, let me know. Tell me how your first few games in the new format are going. What do you think of the play boosters and their impact on limited? Let me know down in the comments. And of course, stay tuned because we're going to be doing our next sealed pool right around the corner. See you there.